Hi again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. And when it comes to adding liquid fertilizers to your garden or the greenhouse like this, it helps to have a tool to apply it with, otherwise you're mixing it batch by batch. So whether you're talking about adding liquid fish fertilizer, liquid kelp, or some of the conventional fertilizers like Peter's, the powdered mix that you would mix into a liquid fertilizer, in all of these cases, having a tool to help you mix will save you time, as opposed to going out there bucket by bucket or watering can by watering can. This is the way I've shown you before that I do it. This is a hose end mixer, and it's a good tool for the job, not putting it down, but aside from it being quite heavy and bulky to move around, it's actually a bit of a pain to do that way. It has a very, very small bucket or container like this, so you end up running out of the fertilizer very, very quickly. I've come across a better solution to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the mixing from this end of the hose to the other end of the hose, the place where it hooks up to the hose bib, and I'm going to be able to mix it with a larger bucket. This is the kit I was able to pick up fairly inexpensively on Amazon. It's the Dram Fertiject, I think it's called, or siphon inject siphon mixer, and I can mix the stock feed then into a big bucket like this and place it quite near to the hose bib. What it means is that on the end that I'm carrying around, I won't be dealing with that big bulky thing anymore. It'll just be a little breaker, water breaker like this one here that will be much, much easier to handle. Let me show you. Let's have a closer look at these parts here. And it's not a very complicated project at all, because the Dram kit only comes with a couple of little pieces. It comes with this water breaker that fits on the end of your hose to concentrate and break up the flow, and then it comes with this siphon. Now I'm going to pull that up to the camera a little bit, and maybe you can see on it that it shows an arrow going that direction, meaning this is the supply end and this is the output end. And it just fits onto a regular garden hose, which is what I like about it. There's another one you can buy on Amazon that's like a black plastic thing, but it fits into some kind of European or English style fittings, so it doesn't fit the garden hose quite right, or at least as far as I could tell. So the way this works is it uses the pressure of the water running through here to suck up the solution, the nutrient solution or fertilizer solution, from your bucket through this tube here. That bucket is sitting right here, and the concentration or flow rate is that this will actually pull up 1 gallon of solution for every 20 gallons of water that it pushes through the hose. Now when it's using the power of the water to pull the solution up, it's actually you're going to experience a slight pressure drop from your regular garden hose. So if you have lots of pressure, it's not a concern. It is something you have to watch for with this, is that you get the acceptable level of pressure at the far end. So a couple of things that you'll want to do on that: don't use a hose that's longer than you need to. Longer hoses will give you an additional pressure drop. And the other thing is that when you're using your breaker or your thing on the end, this is the one it comes with, and I think it's a good one to use because it's not trying to support a very large area. It kind of concentrates that flow. So the only other piece I have here is a hose. That's just going to make it easier for me to run from the hose bib to this bucket, and let me show you the total setup here. Well, I've hooked up that hose to the hose bib, and now for the top of that bucket I'm going to drill a hole in it to allow the siphon portion of the valve to fit down into the bucket. Nice and easy. I'm going to remove the plastic bits from down there so I don't clog up the valve, but for now I guess the part you'll need to see is that it fits like this. And then the valve itself fits onto the end of the hose like that. And now the female end of your hose and now at the far end of the hose where I'll be spraying, I attach the breaker that came with that kit onto my existing shutoff valve. So this is the way it will be operating. Much lighter and less bulky than the previous incarnation for sure. So the only tricky bit is to figure out how much of the actual fertilizer, whether it's chemical or whether it's an organic fertilizer, you're going to put into that bucket. And to do that, you just have to take the shortcut and say how much water or how much final solution is this bucket going to deliver. The bucket itself has 5 gallons in it, and this is going to dilute it by 20 times. So your total that you're going to be delivering to your plants is 100 gallons of solution. So whatever it says on the back here, if it says 1 teaspoon per gallon, you can times that by 100. Sometimes on these, they get a little bit more specific, and you'll have to do a tiny bit of conversion, but they'll actually give you feeding rates. This one here says continuous feeding at 25 to 100 grams per 100 liters of delivered solution. And because this is being, my video will most likely be watched in the US predominantly, you'd have to do some Google conversions on that. But it's no matter, your bag may say something different on the side of it anyway. But the point is to just calculate out how much do you have to add to 100 gallons of water, and that's the amount that you have to put into that bucket. I'm going to mix some now and show you how it works. So I've measured off 200 grams of the fertilizer, which puts me in the middle to low end of what it would recommend for feeding that. And then, before I close this back up, and it bears saying just really quickly here that if you're using something like this, I've opened this one up, it's actually a little bit chunky or thick inside of the container, that if you're going to use an organic solution that actually comes out with a lot of particulate in it, you may consider pre-mixing it and then straining it before you add it to a bucket like this for liquid injection, because it may clog up the strainer on the bottom end of this siphon. And now for me, the fun bit, actually using this. And I do notice a pressure drop from when I'm using it without the siphon on, but I still feel that with this head on there, this breaker, the smaller breaker, I get a reasonable kind of pressure as I use this. All right, thanks so much for watching today as I showed you the new setup for my fertigation, or for my fertilizer injection. I'm going to get rid of this one entirely, the only downside of which is that my forearm won't get quite so much exercise anymore, so I won't look so buff. All right, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, please drop those down into the comments of the video.